into a brand new wave, drowning out the noise that's tame. Liberty whispers through the brave, breaking free from every chain. Nullify the rules they crave, crypto beats that pave the way. Anarchy with minds that's safe, algorithms new dawn today. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride. Beyond control we take a stand, casting off the iron brand. Freedom flowing through our hands, revolution's our command. Decentralize the way we plan, all together we expand. Breaking shackles for the clan, in this journey we're unpanned. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride.
And welcome to the fourth edition of the Legacy News Spectacular. I am your host, Zachary Kaiser, the legacy of Jenny and Kaiser. And we have some stories to break. Interesting times we live in, and an interesting piece that Andrew Joseph has actually discovered. Let's just say, is there a constitutional crisis going on in this country? Just like in 1835? The nullification crisis?
I know they
1836.
mentioned it in the article. It was, well, just a second. Let me look.
Well,
We'll find it in the article.
We'll find it in the
But,
article. We're gonna get to that, but a little intro on the concept is, if you know your Constitution and your constitutional law, 2/3 of the states and the state legislatures can, if they have enough, 2/3 obviously, just like the ratification process, can uphold a system of a new convention. They can actually literally promote a new convention to basically redo the Constitution. In fact, the last time, and in fact, the last time that we were at this scenario, close to it, I would say, which was actually the first succession crisis, known as the nullification crisis, I believe of 1834, maybe. 1834, 1835, something like that. Actually, it always goes back to South Carolina. Big Whig state at that point. It was ended up becoming a very big Southern Democrat slave state, because it was a plantation state in the 60s. But it all goes back to South Carolina, right? This time, who knows? It might be going back to South Carolina, because it's those damn Carolinians. But anyways, at this point, it has more to do with the wave that we're kind of furthering our political system now federally, and how it's shaped the last 4 years or the last 2 years, and how the election of 2024 has come about with the reshaping of a more conservative or Republican-based majority, and majority, I think at this point, when January comes, there will be state legislatures, about 28 state legislatures will be majority Republican to the 18 that are going to be Democrat. The rest are split. So there is theoretically, if the Democrats, who are fearful of this, because this would mean that they lose their power, and they are the party of power at this point, just like the Republicans were
At
the
this
party of
point,
power. Yeah, just like the Republicans were the party of power at the end of the Civil War, and so on and so forth. Um, if if there was a chance, which I don't think there is going to be this case, a this would be very nullifying against the establishment power that has taken hold of the party of principle. And I don't mean principle as in good ethics. I mean the party of principle as in political subversion and control. So with that, Andrew, let's go into the deep dive.
all right.
And let's bring this article up and let you explain. I'm gonna step away.
Okay. All right. I'm going to try not to bumble this like I did last time. It says Constitutional Convention. Some Democrats fear it's coming.
You can't do no worse than Tim.
Right? As Republicans prepare to take control of the Congress and White House, among the many scenarios keeping Democrats up at night is an event that many Americans consider a historical relic, the Constitutional Convention. The 1787 gathering in Philadelphia to write the Constitution was the one and only time states representatives have convened to work on the document. But a simple line in the Constitution allows Congress to convene and rewrite session if 2/3 of state legislatures have called for one. The option has never been used, but most states have long forgotten requests on the books that could be enough to trigger a new constitutional convention. Some scholars and politicians believe. Some Democrat officials are more concerned than ever. In California, a Democrat state senator, Scott Wiener, not to be confused with Anthony Weiner, will introduce legislation on Monday that would rescind the state's 7 active calls for a constitutional convention, the first such move since Donald J. Trump's election to the second term. Mr. Weiner, San Francisco, and other liberal Democrats believe there is a strong possibility of a runaway convention. They say that Republicans can call a convention on the premise, say, of producing an amendment requirement that the federal government keep a budget, the federal budget be balanced, then open the door for a free-for-all in which a multitude of other amendments are considered, including some that could restrict abortion access or civil rights.
Oh, I want to do this. I want to do this in his voice, what I perceive his voice to be.
Okay,
do not want California to inadvertently trigger a constitutional convention that ends up shredding the Constitution.
Mr. Weiner said in an interview. Representative Jody Arrington, a Republican from West Texas and the chairman of the House Budget Committee, has been a leading convention proponent. He has introduced legislation that would require the head of the National Archives to track state applications, and has said that a convention should have been called in 1979 when he believes enough states had requested one. Since 2016, the year Mr. Trump was elected president for the first time, 9 states have had their Democratic-controlled legislation have been concerned enough that they've rescinded their decades-old request for a constitutional amendment, sometimes with support from their fellow Republican legislators. They feared they would be leaving open the door for a Republican-led Congress and state legislatures to pursue a conservative revision of the laws underpinning the national governance.
Come on, Tim. Don't get the.
I know. Everyone needs a gimmick, right? The founding fathers said almost no rules governing how such a constitutional convention would work. Article 5 of the Constitution says that the document can be amended if legislatures in 2/3 of states, now 34 out of 50, agree to convene for the purpose, but it does not set guidelines for how the gathering would function. If the convention produced a proposed amendment, the change would still need to be ratified by 3/4 of the state's legislatures. Following last month's election, 28 state legislatures will be controlled by Republicans, 18 by Democrats, and the rest will be split, according to the National Conference for State Legislatures. The founding document does
No,
not say whether. Sorry.
before we continue on, let me let's remove that and let us bring up Article 5 to give people
Are you going to
uh
pull it up?
yeah, I'll bring it up. Give people a kind of a what's the word? It's still early. But give them a
A fresh
forebearing of
perspective.
what it is, a fresh perspective. There you go. Um,
Let me remove ours.
okay. So Article 5 states here, all right, the Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments of this Constitution or on the application of legislatures of 2/3 of several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of several states or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as the one or other mode of ratification may be proposed by Congress or by the Congress, provided that no amendment which may be made prior to the year 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses in the 9th section of the first article, and that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate.
What is this, a screen recording for ants?
Yes, this is a screen recording for ants. So,
all right, let me go back to what I was reading.
Mm-hmm.
The founding document does not say whether 34 states need to agree on the specific amendment topic or whether signaling that they want a convention for any reason is enough to trigger proceedings. There's no explanation of whether each state at the convention would get one vote or more, whether a topic not on the agenda can be raised, whether lobbyists or special interest groups could participate, or who would referee disagreements. Constitutional scholars are unclear how even the most basic question would be resolved. More than 34 states appear to have standing requests to change the Constitution, some dating back more than 150 years, according to the Article 5 Library, a bare-bones website that scholars pointed to as the best-known repository of applications to change the Constitution. The list reads like a chronicle of generational concerns. In the early 20th century, more than 20 states wanted to insert anti-polygamy laws into the Constitution. In 1949, 6 states wanted to create a world federal government. Many of those applications remain active.
Hold up. What the F does that mean? World federal government. That's some scary words right there.
That's
post World War II, by the way.
Yeah, that's more internationalist bullshit. Anyways,
globalism,
right? In more recent decades, some states have sought to install a balanced budget requirement for the federal government or give the president line item veto authority. At a congressional hearing focused on budget matter Wednesday, Mr. Arrington said that not holding a convention in 1979 was a constitutional travesty, and that a convention should still be called today. At the hearing, Mr. David Walker, a former Comptroller General of the United States, said that several states were planning to sue Congress for failing to call the convention. The congressman through a spokesman, declined to be interviewed, and Mr. Walker did not respond to requests for comment. It is not clear how serious Republicans were to sue the convention. Some Democrats have dismissed concerns as overblown, given the legal ambiguity around how to convene one and the fact that 38 states would have to approve a constitutional amendment. Difficult to imagine in a polarized political era. Still, Mr. Trump has said that he wants to change the 14th Amendment so that it would not grant citizenship to anyone born in the United States. Rick Santorum, a former Republican senator, has pushed conservative state houses to call for a convention, saying at a news conference on the matter last year that Washington is never going to fix it itself. Arwing Kamarinsky, the dean of the University of California, Berkeley School of Law and a constitutional law expert, called the concern of Democrats very legitimate. The fact that we have had more than we haven't had one since 1787 leads to me to believe that it's unlikely to happen. But we're in an unprecedented time in American history, so it's hard to make predictions about anything, he said. It's all uncharted territory. In California,
Here's some other uncharted territory. The Convention of 1787 was actually unconstitutional within both the United States Constitution and the Articles of Confederation. Just wanted to add that little tidbit.
that's fine. In California, Mr. Weeder wants to do what he can to make sure the convention will never take place. California's oldest call for a constitutional convention stems from 1911, when the state supported one that would allow for a direct popular vote of senators instead of having legislatures elect them. The proposal.
See that right there, direct popular vote of senators, and inevitably that would lead. It didn't lead to a constitutional convention, but it did lead to, what was it, the 16th Amendment that would be ratified to give that actual scenario. That was dangerous treading on the waters, because obviously it forced a more popular direct democracy approach in this republic for the senator, and that's not how that in itself was against the Constitution. As go into the legislative article, the Senate is to be appointed by the states, and the House of Representatives, a proportion of the population derives from the popular vote. So you have your popular vote. It's the House. It's to basically put equal footing in both the House and the Senate for the states to have a direct correlation with the populace. But instead, we now have direct popular vote. Thank you, California, you fucking commies.
Okay,
go on.
I'm not sure where I was at, so I'll just go back to what I think it was. The proposal became a reality through the other mechanisms outlined in Article 5. Two-thirds of both houses of Congress proposed the 17th Amendment, which was ratified by the states in 1913. That path has produced 27 amendments, the most recent of which came in 1992 to prevent members of Congress from giving themselves pay raises. Many of California's 7 calls for a constitutional convention relate to fairly mundane topics such as campaign finance reform and motor vehicle taxes. California is also among the 6 states that wanted to create a world federal government, a request that remained on the books. If Mr. Weiner's legislation is enacted, California would follow the path of other Democrat-led states that would have withdrawn their calls for convention since 2016, including New Jersey, Oregon, and Illinois. New York most recently did so by passing a law this spring that rescinded all of its previous applications, including one from 1789. Yep. While most of California's proposed amendments are dated, state legislatures did approve a request last year by Governor Gavin Newsom to pass a gun control amendment. His idea would prohibit civilians from buying military-style firearms and install universal background checks on firearm purchases. Mr. Weiner's bill would rescind Mr. Newsom's proposal, along with California's 6 other standing requests. Mr. Weiner said that he had not yet had a discussion with the Democrat governor about the legislation, which would not require Mr. Newsom's signature. A spokesman for the governor pointed out that his measure came with the poison pill language that would void his request if other states used it to convene a convention on another topic. None of the other 49 states have pursued an amendment similar to Mr. Newsom's, which some of the governor's critics considered politically impossible and an attempt to generate national attention. Given the broad control that other Republicans will have in Washington next year, other Democrat-led states may be motivated to rescind their constitutional convention request. Lawmakers in Vermont, Massachusetts, and Connecticut previously introduced resolutions to take back their applications, but those measures stalled. By the count of David Super, a professor at the Georgetown University Law Center and an expert on constitutional conventions, the highest number of active requests were. Oh, sorry. Did you finish?
Is this it?
All right.
Is this? Is this the end
I
of the
believe
article?
that's the
Okay.
end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I was gonna say if it continues, we go on.
Yeah. The highest number of active requests for a convention of one specific topic is 28 for a balanced budget. But he said if Article 5 is interpreted as allowing requests to count towards convening a constitutional convention, the 34 states threshold has already been reached. If Congress declares under whatever crazy county theory the convention advocates support that we've met the threshold, then we'll have a convention, Mr. Super said. The post at Constitutional Convention. Some Democrats fear it's coming. It's appeared first on the New York Times.
Which, contrary to what many people believe, the New York Times, though as biased as it can be, just like every news cycle, basically it's still probably the better source of biased news. I mean, you can still find something real in the New York Times. You got to take every news source with a grain of sand because everybody has bias. It doesn't matter if it's the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Cincinnati Enquirer is garbage, the LA Times, CNN, Fox News, whatever the hell it might be. You have to broaden your horizons when it comes to news because there's always an inkling of truth in every certain source that you find. So, and I would actually say the New York Times is probably the better of most of these these very biased and stupid Operation Mockingbird corporate news cycles, but it still has its faults, obviously.
I mean, it's
a lot.
Washington's official news propaganda unit outlet. So, what do you expect?
What, the Washington Post? Yes, it is. The Washington Post
New York
is
Times.
Washington's official. Tomato.
CIA. Yeah.
Tomato. But anyways, if it went too long, I was going to say let's stop it because the source to this article will be in the description if you want to read it yourself. You can also find another source of this same article. I'm sure if Drudge Report had it, then you can definitely find it on your own. But this link will be in the description below for you to read it anytime you want, every time you come to this episode, and whenever you come to this episode. So make sure you share this episode so it gets cycled out so everybody else can do it. So, but with that, what does this mean if there can be, and if the Democrats are right in their fear for a convention of, say, 2025? I'm just using this colloquially because it's 2025.
See how this might benefit the country in the long term. If they actually went through with something like this, they could severely limit the government's ability to launch wars.
You think? You think that it might be a positive? Because in my opinion, I don't think. I think it's a two-edged sword because the Democrats certainly have their fear in losing their power and their authority as the number one source of establishment grievance upon the country. But it also there's another level of conservatism politics, and I loosely say conservatism, but the Republican Party sustaining their platform of power control and maintaining that they are the power to be for the immediate and near future, which may not necessarily be a good thing. The Republicans are no different from the Democrats. It just so happens to be the Democrats are the party of power at this moment. So it could just mean a transition. They're fearful of the transition of power for what the Republicans bring. And it could be that this is just a smokescreen, and there's nothing really for them to fear, and nothing will come about on this. And I don't think anything like this is going to actually happen. Quite frankly, I think Donald Trump is comfortable with the fact that he has his people, and he also has a Republican majority, albeit somewhat slim in both the House and the Senate starting in January, and he has the state legislatures to match as well, with having 28 or so majority Republican, and then a mere minority of split that could basically go either or, depending on what they propose. So you basically have the Democrats by the balls already. So I don't know if this will come about anything.
Well,
But
I know what I said was kind of wishful thinking, but it's a potential thing. You always keep it in mind. It's a potential, not an actual. I believe it when I see it, but that was just one really positive use of something like this to happen.
It would be very positive. It would mean that perhaps the Constitution and the rule of law in this country does have some sort of meaning if they were to backtrack and use the supreme law of the land and its clauses as a means to get to more sane thinking again. Maybe get to the table and figure out certain compromise with each other and fix what has gone astray in this country. And as you said, it could be a tremendous means to limit the power of the federal government and get to where this country was supposedly and allegedly formed to be: a limitation, a national government that has a checks and balances hold on protecting the rights of individuals against powers that defy those rights, both foreign and domestic, and that the states are independent of the federal government and how they govern on an independent sector. We could theoretically get ourselves back to these United States rather than the United States again. And that is a tremendous and positive path. I don't foresee it being that objective. I honestly think that if we go this route, the Republicans will do in their power to basically become what the Democrats have become within the last 25 years, the power to be, and reconsolidate, and then the neocons will shift parties yet again, right? So we'll probably be in the same boat. But at the same time, if this were to go down, maybe it probably will be a good thing. It could be a good thing. But we will see, and only time will tell if something like this really does happen.
Absolutely.
So, anything more on that? Your reading is so atrocious there, Tim Pool.
I know. You have to forgive
we
me.
went, we went way over time. I had another clip on the drones. I really don't want to go past 30 minutes. I want you to kind of let this all sink in, go do your own research, share this content. And what do you think? Drop a comment. What do you think about the convention of 2025? Do you think we're on the right track, everybody? Or is this another ploy for another power consumption by either party?
I can see that.
So drop that comment, like, share, subscribe, and we will be back yet again tomorrow at 5 p.m. for some social and cultural engineering in the news world. Anything else to say, Andrew?
No, thanks for watching. We always appreciate it when you guys give us some time.
All right. So with that, everybody,
I am Andrew Joseph.
With that, everybody, we are going to get out of here. I'm going to put Andrew backstage. I am the legacy of Jennifer and Kaiser. This has been another edition of Legacy News. Thank you for watching. And sorry, Andrew, I just had to put you backstage because
it's okay. I'm used to it.
You're a filthy, filthy communist. So no, that's a joke. But with that, have a great Monday. everybody, and peace.